Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 executive order modifying what? Hold on before I get too ahead of myself. I have to gavel us in. Sorry, getting too ahead of myself. Gaveling us in, I'm calling this hearing to an order. For the record, my name is Julia Mejia, City Councilor at Large. I'm the Chair of Small Business and Workforce Development, and I'm joined by the sponsors of this docket. I'm Councilor Flynn of District 2, Councilor Breeden of District 9. And I believe we are also waiting on Councilor Flaherty to join us as well, who is one of the co-sponsors. I'm recognizing my colleagues in the order of arrival. When they shall arrive here, someone will give me the heads up and I will recognize them. In accordance to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 executive order, modifying certain requirements of the open meeting law and relieving public bodies of certain requirements, including the requirement that public bodies conduct its meetings in a public place that is open and physically accessible to the public, the City Council will be conducting this hearing virtually via Zoom. This enables the city to carry out its responsibilities while adhering to public health accommodations and ensuring public access to its deliberations through adequate alternative means. This public hearing is being recorded and is being live streamed at boston.gov/council-TV and broadcasted on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and Files Channel 964. For the public testimony, written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.sbwd@boston.gov and will be part of the record and available to all counselors. Today's hearing is on docket 0398, order for a hearing on the safety and of construction sites in the city of Boston. The following individuals from the administration will be participating at today's hearing. We have Sean Linden, Commissioner of ISD, Brian Duran, Building Inspector, ISD, Superintendent General Gerald Bailey from the Boston Police Department, Superintendent Marcus Edding from the Boston Police Department. We are also joined by advocates, including Myron Perez of the New England Regional Council of Carpenters, and others were invited and will be waiting on them to appear. I will now recognize my colleagues for opening statements, starting with the sponsors before moving to counselors in order of arrival. Councilor Flynn, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. And I just want to first of all say thank you, Councilor Mejia, for chairing this important hearing. I had the opportunity to talk to Councilor Flaherty several times this morning and yesterday. He is going to try to join us, but he had a pressing issue, so I will be filling in and covering for Councilor Flaherty. But again, want to say thank you to you, Councilor Mejia, to the panel that is here with us, and just as a way of background, Boston, as we all know, is experiencing a rapid increase in building construction, and with this building construction boom, we have some concerns about safety in and around construction sites. Previous tragedies caused by unsafe construction conditions have reinforced the significance of examining Boston's guidelines for the safety of construction sites. Hazardous construction sites pose a threat to construction workers, an occupation that has over 20% of workplace fatalities, according to Osha. Boston residents who live and work around construction sites, pedestrians who walk in the area as well, have expressed concern. While Boston continues to advance and expand new construction sites, we are confronted with the question of what is being done to make the site as safe for workers as possible. That's my number one priority, and I know it's the number one priority for many. Construction workers are often at high risk of suffering injuries, fatalities, according to OSHA. We have witnessed several incidents in recent years that injured or even killed construction workers, including a recent incident this year on High Street, which is in my district, where 2 workers were unfortunately killed on a construction site. We later learned that the company doing the work on High Street had multiple safety violations and was cited and fined by Osha. I think we have to come together as a city where contractors that have a reckless disregard for the safety of their workers, in my opinion, we should not allow them to have access in bidding on city construction projects. You need to treat your workers with respect and dignity and in a safe environment. And if you continue to provide a work environment that's not safe for workers, I think that disqualifies you for city contracts. Having said that, again, some of my talking points was included with Councilor Flaherty's talking points as well. So I just provided all of them together. Thank you, Councilor Mejia.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. Councilor Braden, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Councillor, Madam Chair. I just want to echo Councillor Flynn's concerns that we need to be very diligent in ensuring that our workforce in the City of Boston are safe and that safety considerations take top priority. And especially in the past year, we've seen several fatalities of workers on construction sites in the city while the company was undertaking city contracts. And I think it's really important. We have a responsibility to ensure that the contractors that we hire are observing the highest possible safety precautions to keep their workers safe. And I look forward to the conversations this afternoon and hope that we can lay out a path to keep our workers safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Breeden. In the sake of time, I understand that the administration does have some time constraints and they will need to leave by 3. And we also only have one advocate here to speak, so I will let them present as well before turning it over to the councilors for questions. Each panelist will have about 5 minutes to provide testimony, and we'd like to start off with Commissioner Linden. Commissioner Linden, you now have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Mejia. Good afternoon, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Braden, and all present. My name is Sean Lydon. I am the Commissioner of Inspectional Services Department. I'm joined here today by Brian Ronan. He's the Director of Building and Structures, Superintendent Eddings, and Superintendent Bailey of the Boston Police Department. Thank you for holding this hearing and inviting me to speak today. I prepared a brief opening statement. We'll be happy to take any questions that you have after the statement. Inspectional Services Department is the primary permitting and enforcement agency for construction in the City of Boston. ISD houses 5 different regulatory divisions that each enforce various federal, state, and local statutes, codes, and ordinances. Significant to the subject of this hearing, ISD's Building and Structures Division is responsible for issuing permits and inspecting building construction work, including minor and major alterations to existing structures, new construction, demolition, and use and occupancy of buildings. This includes physical construction, electrical, plumbing, gas, and mechanical work. ISD issues between 30 and 35,000 permits a year in the city, which also generates significant income for the infrastructure report. Our colleagues at Boston Public Works, Boston Transportation Department, and Boston Water and Sewer are responsible for the permitting and inspection of roadway, sewer, and utility work in the city. The building division at ISD has 3 operational units responsible for inspections: the building division, the electrical division, the plumbing and gas division. 25 building inspectors, 9 electrical inspectors, and 8 plumbing and gas inspectors are all certified building officials that receive extensive training and ongoing education and certification by state, federal, and international code official agencies. They're trained and certified to ensure that construction work is done properly to code and safe both during and after construction for the life of the building. Our inspectors review permits and conduct various inspections during all phases of building construction, as well as respond to and inspect existing conditions of properties to ensure that they are structurally safe and be used or occupied appropriately. The inspectors at ISD are continually upgrading their qualifications in the form of continuing education, as methods, materials, and techniques are constantly evolving in this industry. This is also required to maintain certification as local inspectors, which keeps us abreast of any developments and any concerns in regards to this field. As part of our permitting process, we require every permit application, which has a significant scope of alteration, to have a licensed contractor to do the work. These contractors must maintain licenses from various state agencies in good standing for the duration of the work, from application to final sign-off. Contractors are also required to sign and submit a Maddox-Higgins affidavit of workplace safety, indicating whether Osha has issued any workplace safety violations to this company within the preceding 5 years. The Maddox-Higgins affidavit also requires a contractor to include their experience rating, which comes from the Massachusetts Workers' Comp and Inspection Bureau. This rating is particularly important for certain types of hazardous, dangerous work, and helps our permit reviewers determine whether or not to issue a permit to that individual or entity. These pre-construction steps are important in ensuring that work sites and construction work are safe prior to the start of the job. However, ongoing required inspections in response to complaints and concerns about job sites allows the department to ensure that sites and workers are safe during the work itself. When problems are identified upon inspection, our inspectors can suspend or revoke permits or recommend for license suspension or revocation. Issue stop work orders. In a case where workplace safety issues, work with Osha to investigate and address those issues as needed. We also have building, electrical, and mechanical inspectors on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our full spectrum of construction safety does not stop on the job ends. We have several ongoing safety initiatives and monitoring, like our annual Building Safety Month events, which include site inspections across the city, informational webinars, and engagement with property owners about keeping their properties safe and up to code. We require submission of facade and fire escape affidavits, along with engineering reports to ensure that the building remains safe for its occupants and public. ISD is committed to doing everything in our power to make sure buildings, construction sites, and construction workers and the public are safe. Unfortunately, the hazards of construction work are real, and sometimes tragedy does occur. We have effective systems in place and operations to mitigate these hazards, but we are willing, as always, to work with the council and other city agencies and continue to make Boston a safer place to work. Boston is one of the safest cities in the country per square foot of construction. Thank you for letting me speak today. My colleagues in the Boston Police Department also have some brief opening remarks, after which I will be happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you very much for that. Perfect timing, too. And we need to model that behavior, everyone, okay? So I'm going to move on with Superintendent Bailey. You now have the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Councilor Mejia, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Braden. Thank you for calling this meeting. Look forward to working with everyone. Commissioner Leiden, anything we can do from a police standpoint to make construction sites safer for not only the workers, but for the residents, we look forward to the conversation and helping out in any way we can. So thank you.
Oh, I see you showing off here, Bailey. So we're going to move on. Good job. Thank you for keeping your remarks brief. We're going to move on to Superintendent Eddings. Please, you now have the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone. Councilor Mejia. Want to thank you for inviting us to speak on this panel today. For everybody that doesn't know me, my name is Marcus Eddings. I'm a superintendent with the Boston Police Department. I'm assigned out of the Office of the Police Commissioner, and I oversee the paid detail units. And the paid detail unit is responsible for the assignment and oversight of paid details to authorized vendors. An officer that's assigned a detail at a construction site is responsible for maintaining the free flow of traffic in his assigned area. And their responsibility is also to monitor for any potential safety hazards for the general public or the contractor. And with regards to the specific incidents mentioned for this hearing that resulted in injuries or fatalities, I'll answer any of your questions as best I can as it relates to the Boston Police Department's role at these construction sites. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Edens. I'm going to now turn it over to Minor Perez of the New England Regional Council of Carpenters. You now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Minor Perez from 750 Dorchester Avenue. Carpenters Union would like to reaffirm our support for working safely. The nature of construction is inherently dangerous both for those performing the work as well as pedestrians. Therefore, the importance of adhering to safety guidelines and regulations cannot be overstated. We take great organizational pride in providing top of the line safety training to our members and everybody else that wishes to have it. We recognize that the dynamic of the nature of the construction gives away the process that eventually obsoletes those which strive to remain currently in delivering relevant safety and training and education. The development taking place in the city of Boston and beyond its city limits translates directly to money into the pockets of our membership, a fact that becomes irrelevant if a member dies on a job site. Performing work safely each and every day requires that every person involved is on the same page. We wholeheartedly appreciate Boston City Council devoting time to discuss the current procedures of across all job sites. And this will help to ensure the safety and well-being of our members and the greater Boston pedestrian population. Thank you.
Thank you, Minor. It's good to see you, hear you here today. I'll now open up the floor to my colleagues to ask their questions. And I ask that counselors keep their Q&A portion to no more than 5 minutes. So in order of arrival, and we're gonna start off with our lead sponsor, Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. And I failed to mention in my opening statement the excellent work of Councilor Braden as well on this issue. So thank you, Councilor Braden. So my question is, and as I mentioned, Councilor Flaherty has some questions as well. And I've worked with both Superintendent Eddings and Bailey in the past on different issues. So they're very professional and dedicated city employees, as is Commissioner Leiden. So let me go into Councilor Flaherty's questions, and then I'll go into my questions. This one here would be for Commissioner Leiden. Which department in ISD is responsible for coordinating with Osha around safety violations?
That'd be the building department. Well, it depends on the nature of the safety violation itself. It'd be the building department, the electrical department, or the mechanical / gas, the gas department. It would be ISD, building, electrical, and/or mechanical department.
Okay. How many incidents does a company or LLC need to have to be classified as a severe violator enforcement program? Do we have a log of these violators, or do we rely on self-reporting?
What we have, Councilor Flynn, is called the Maddox-Higgins Affidavit, which is a rating assigned from the workers' comp and the insurance companies assigned to this particular company, this entity, in regards to their past workplace violations, if there are some. It goes back 5 years. What ISD has taken a position as a 1.0, anything above 1.0, any nature of any construction site, and its construction is probably, it's the second largest hazardous work in the world, behind fishing, behind crabbing and stuff like that. But anyway, 1.0 is a cutoff line. What you have is in the higher risk trades, such as roofing, such as heavy steel. Those companies start off with a much higher risk right off the bat, and they will never get below a certain rating through the insurance companies because of the risk of the nature of the job itself. At 1.0, what ISD will question, we will reach out to the insurance company. Why do they have a higher than 1.0 rating? And what happens is basically, well, somebody had perhaps a back injury claim 3 years ago. and that counts against this rating, or they had a whatever type of injury, any severe injuries, it's going to put that, the insurance companies who give this rating, any severe injuries or fatalities, it's going to put the rating through the roof. We will not issue a permit to these entities.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any loopholes that we need to acknowledge? But if there are loopholes, how can we deal with them to strengthen them? That was a follow-up question from Council Flaherty.
Basically, there are loopholes, and fortunately, ISD, I must say that we were alerted to. It was an entity working under different licenses, different applicants, different name, but we were alerted to this, and we promptly went out and shut down the site. And unfortunately, it's one of the entities in a fatality that resulted in a fatality with this company. In a nutshell, we have them out of town, but it was through the loophole. The loophole is tight. We run by license, by name. The cross-reference is there. It will not pass. But this particular company, different individuals pulling the permits with their licenses, and different individuals listed as the president of this particular company with a different name. But we got into it, and we did stop that job.
Yeah, we have a lot of companies in the city that try to play games with these loopholes of applying for an application under different names. And I mean, like you, Commissioner, we take this very seriously. 52% of the development that's happening in the city of Boston is happening in my district, and we need to make sure that companies that are working in the city are safe. But I guess the question that we have is, are there any penalties for perjury if a company comes in and provides inaccurate information to ISD requesting an application?
We would leave that to the court of law. Obviously, that's our complaint will go to the state. The state is the governing body within all the state of Massachusetts. So, and we notify the state, the BBRS, Bureau of Building Regulations and Standards. They are the governing body for the city of Boston as far as the regulations and standards, and they are also the judicial body in the construction industry, unless it goes obviously to court.
Okay. So those are the questions from Council Flaherty and myself. Maybe a question for Superintendent Eddings that does the details on the Boston Police on a particular site. Is it common, Superintendent, that sites that do request a detail for a police officer to work at a construction site, is it common that the detail is not filled just because of lack of offices that are available? We have a lot of police, as you know, better than all, that are working double shifts. But I just want to know, at times it does seem like we're not able to fill details. Is that accurate?
Well, some details do go unfilled, but it's not necessarily common for them not to be filled. It depends on a lot of things. If there's forced overtime, they require officers to work. That way, some details won't be filled. It could be on a holiday or a weekend. Officers generally sometimes do not take details on the weekends, but it's not necessarily common. But there are details that will go unfilled.
Thank you, Superintendent. The one thing I noticed also, I know he's on the next panel, the Boston Building Trades. I mean, they provide exceptional safety and training to their workers, and when they go on a particular construction site, they have literally hundreds of hours of training on safety in the workplace. So I guess to Commissioner Lydon, when you're looking at a company that applies for a permit, are you looking at a company in their safety record as it relates to their training and providing their workers with the necessary tools and education and training to be successful?
Councilor Flynn, during our permitting process, once again, as far as the safety goes, our Maddox Higgins, that's probably the most comprehensive screen, and that's because an insurance company, they are the screening element of this, and then you're not going to get much by an insurance company. The licensing itself of the particular type of license is critical. Whatever type of license, most of these licenses, they're issued by the state, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and they wouldn't have these licenses. There's a very thorough and very, very, very strict screening process in order to apply for this type of license in the first place. And the screening is done, the background of the individual, the knowledge of the individual, in order to pass a series of examinations, and also oral presentation to the board by the Board of Building Regulations and Standards in order to achieve this license in the first place. That's for the license, and that's the background screen with then the insurance. And also, I must say, Boston, as far as a big city, it's a relatively small city. So there's a lot of individuals here, been around here. There's some longevity in this department, and you know who the individuals are who do practice unsafe. And for lack of better terminology, we run them off the job.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. An unsafe company has no business working in Boston, in my opinion. When you come to Boston to work, you need to have the necessary training, education to do your job effectively. But to do your job effectively, you have to have an excellent training and safety program. Unfortunately, many companies don't have it. But as I referenced, the building trades do an exceptional job of educating companies about the critical role of safety in the workplace. And I know Mina Perez, also from the Carpenters Union, highlighted that. Councilor Mejia, that's all the questions I have for this panel. I just want to say thank you to the panel. I appreciate them being here, and I want to say thank you for the work they do in the city.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Flynn. I'd like to turn it over now to Councilor Breeden.
I don't have any questions at this time. Well, the only thought I had is there a whistleblower system available for workers who feel that there's unsafe work practices on the job that are health and safety issues that they can report? Do we have that sort of a system in the city?
Actually, Councilor Braden, it's incorporated part of the 311 program. Any individual at any time, they can either call this office or call 311. Inspector will respond immediately. As stated before, we have on-call inspectors 24/7, and they will respond immediately.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have for now, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Breeden. I am curious, is there just curious if you can just walk us through the process in terms of, if there's a history, if there's any background checks that are done with some of these companies that we are contracting with, and is that information stored in a place that is public so that folks know who are these usual suspects or people who we need to be super mindful? Can you just kind of walk us through what these background checks, if any, look like?
Madam Chairperson, we actually get updates consistently from the state of Massachusetts, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, as far as suspension or revocation of licenses granted by the state of Massachusetts. And that basically, that is the governing body as the licensing itself. And they update us daily on what has happened throughout the whole state, not only the city of Boston, but where the individuals from, what the CS is about, and that is incorporated into the database.
And how often does that get updated?
It's updated daily, basically. I mean,
Wow.
the notifications from the state are daily from Rob Anderson and from the BBRS. Those notifications, as soon as suspension or revocation, this office will get daily. If it happened 5 times a week, it happened 20 times a week, immediately that these all jurisdictions across the state of Massachusetts are notified.
So if it happens, is there a benchmark in terms of how often it's allowed to happen before they get shut down? completely?
shut down immediately. If it's suspended or revoked, they're shut down immediately.
Okay, because I just heard you say 3-5 times, and so I'm just curious if it was
3 to 5 times for 3 to 5 different individuals,
okay.
Counselor.
Okay, thank you for that clarity.
Very welcome.
I'm going to, I believe we have a second panel, and I just want to make sure I heard that Brian Doherty from the Building Trades is on deck. Is he here to speak? Could anyone confirm or deny that? Please.
Not here, Counselor.
Okay. Is there anyone else that we are expecting? I don't see anyone else here on my list.
None.
Okay. Do either of my colleagues wish to ask any further questions, perhaps to Minor Perez as an advocate on the panel?
Yes, Councilman Mejia. Thank you, and just wanted to ask Minor, and I'm glad he's here. Minor, what can we do to make the job sites safer for all workers? Minor is with the Carpenters Union, but we want to make the job site safe for 100% of the workers that come into Boston, union and non-union. So I just wanted to get an idea from Minor how we can go about doing that based on his experience in the field for many years.
Thank you, Councillor Flynn. One of the things that we found to be highly effective in the Carpenters Union, we have a lot of workers that are immigrants from Central America, South America. And one of the things that we found that is helping us tremendously to reduce accidents is providing a Osha 30 class in the native language. Yours truly, he is an immigrant from Guatemala, a first-generation immigrant, and I cannot tell you enough as to how helpful it is for our immigrant workforce to be able to take this class, Osha 30, in their own native language. We have seen a huge reduction. This is also a requirement on state-funded projects and public projects. And if that was to be moved on to the private projects as well, as a requirement to work in the city of Boston, you must have an Osha 30 class. Whether you're a union or a non-union person, it just is of huge help.
Thank you, Minor. And I guess just a follow-up question, Minor. One of the most unconscionable things I see in the city on a construction site is wage theft. I see workers literally have to chase their boss around to get their paycheck. At times they get a fraction of their paycheck, or they get it very late, or they don't get it at all, which is unconscionable. But when I see that, I say to myself, if this company doesn't even want to pay the workers, how the heck are they even going to give them safe working conditions? So, I know Councilor Lydia Edwards has done a lot of good work on wage theft issues, as has the Attorney General, Maura Healey, and the City Council as well, and Mayor Walsh. But is that still common, Minor, wage theft in our city? And what can we do about it? I'm not asking you to outline our plan to respond to it, but it has a big impact on these workers who are exploited, many of them whom are immigrants.
Thank you, Councillor Free and through the chair. Yes, thanks for bringing the issue up. Those are the two main issues that we try to help a lot of workers who are non-union. Often we have people calling, reaching out to us, asking us to help them collect their pay. I will say to you with all confidence, this is a huge problem on building of affordable housing because it is very tight budgets, and obviously developers trying to build more units with less money, if you will. So those are the two things we find workers taking shortcuts to get work done, and we find people who don't get paid or they are absolutely just not on the books, which creates a lot of problems from not having workers' compensation in case of an accident. It's just a huge problem that it will be great to find measures to make sure that this is not happening in the city of Boston. But it is a life and it's a growing problem, especially within the affordable housing building.
Yeah, thank you, Minor. And just on that issue, not only do they not pay the workers, but then they don't even pay the state for unemployment assistance or pay the state taxes, and that also has a big impact on our economy. To exploit workers, whether they're born in Boston or they're born outside of the country, is unconscionable in our city, and those types of companies should never have a place working in our city. That's just my opinion. Anyway, I just want to say thank you to the panelists that provided exceptional information here today. Thank you, Council Mejia.
Thank you, Councillor Flynn, and thank you to Councillor Breeden for also spearheading this alongside with Councillor Flaherty, who's unable to join us. Do we have someone in the attendees list? I see Colette Folan. Colette, are you here to offer public testimony? Is there any way, and if so, can we upgrade her to panelist? Well, I've just promoted you, Colette, to panelist. So if you're here for testimony, you now have the floor.
Hi, councilors. Thank you so much for hosting this today. I have no questions at this time, just listening in, but thank you for asking. Okay, great. Thank you. In this case, I don't believe we have any other public testimonies. Unless my colleagues have any other questions, I think it's fair to say we can draw this hearing to a close.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Edwards. I just wanted to ask, you ask a question.
For the record, I'm Councilor Mejia. Just want to make sure that people don't.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Councilor Mejia. Councilor Edwards was just here a second ago. I apologize. Councilor Mejia, could I request that we keep this this hearing in a working session and maybe come back to it again, whatever is convenient with you and with the panel, maybe in a couple of months or so?
Of course, Councilor Flynn. I also see that we've been joined by Councilor Bach, and I'm curious, Councilor Bach, before we wrap things up, would love to give you an opportunity to share remarks or any questions that you may have.
Sure. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And I'm so sorry to be arriving right at the tail end here. I had a conflict, but I felt like I'd be remiss not to come and to say that I think this is such an important issue in the city. I mean, we've just seen too many tragedies. And frankly, I just think that we should all recognize that when it comes down to it, too often we're in a situation where profit is being placed ahead of safety, and where the reason why safeguards are not in place for people is because it would just cost a little bit, whether it's in time or money or care. And I think it's a really important thing to my mind that our unions do in the city, is to really make sure those standards are in place. And I think it's important to remember, we talk a lot about how the union movement came out of trying to enforce wage standards, and that's so important, but so much of it was also about workplace safety. And I just feel like we've got to have more that we can do on a regulatory level to kind of stop bad actors and the Wild West on this stuff. And I know we've got lots of good partners in the city already chasing that, but I just want to say, Councillor Flynn's point about keeping this in committee, that if there's anything we can do more muscular on this to really hold bad actors to account and limit their ability to get city jobs, that taxpayer dollars are going into, but really to just get permits and such in general, I think it's incumbent upon us. So I just wanted to at least make the tail end here to say that and express my strong support for that work.
Thank you, Councillor Bach. I concur and also agree how important it is for us to not only keep this in committee, but to perhaps Councillor Flynn, maybe identifying some of the key stakeholders who are not here at the table, maybe some folks who had some personal lived experience that we can draw from. So I think that if we can put together a list of some of those folks for the next conversation, for the hearing, I think that that would add a lot of value to this discussion. And I do believe there's an opportunity here for us to lean in a little bit deeper. So absolutely we'll be recommending that to stay in committee and look to your leadership for what the next steps look like, Councilor Flynn and Councilor Breeden and Councilor Flaherty as lead sponsors. And thank you to the administration for joining, and Minor Perez for being here with us today, and looking forward to your thought partnership as we continue to move forward in this discussion. And unless my colleagues have any closing remarks, I'd like to just thank everyone and say that we are safe to call this hearing to a close. So gaveling us out. Thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.